Hi everybody, my name is Barry Schwartz and this is the Search Buzz video recap. Today is Friday, February 20th. I apologize in advance, but this is going to be, I'm a little bit tired. The pipes in my house froze, so I have no water, and it's I've been dealing with it since 2 o'clock. Any event, I'm at the office now, got water here, so that's good. This is the search news we covered over at the Search Engine Roundtable at seroundtable.com. First up, John Mueller said, and let me quote, he answered a question, he answered a question where the question was asked, is link building in any way good? And John basically said, in general, I try to avoid that. I transcribed the whole entire thing. You can listen to how he said it. Basically, he's saying, don't go out and just try and build links. He's saying you should get links to your site automatically by enabling people to link to you because they want to link to you, not because you're building links in the classic sense of building links. So you definitely want to take a look at that. It's caused a lot of controversy in the SEO industry, so definitely take a look. There hasn't been a Panda update in over 4 months now, at least officially. Officially, it's been, the last official Google Panda update was on September 25th. The last time we saw a Panda update was on October 13th or so. And the last time other people have claimed they saw a Panda update was on October 24th. So it's been over 4 months since there's been a Panda update. And people like me and others are waiting for a Panda update. So what's taking them so long? That's the big question. Obviously, when people are eager for updates and they get the update, sometimes they're not too happy after the update. But yesterday, it seemed like Google was actually testing a new search algorithm. Not sure if it was mobile specific or something, but we definitely saw a shift in terms of how people were saying, oh my god, my rankings have climbed or dropped, and then a few hours later, like, oh, everything's back to normal. The different search metrics tools that track the different fluctuations in the search results at Google did also notice some type of a hiccup yesterday or the day before, but it didn't really last, I don't think. Yesterday or last night, Google announced they added what I'm calling a carousel snippet, or a snippet carousel. And what happens is, here's a look at it. You do a search for a topic, up comes a section from The Guardian, and below is this carousel has more articles from them. You can actually swipe through the articles, and it's using the Google carousel system, but specifically for a snippet result. So it's like the snippet carousel. Here's another site that shows it as well, and you can see that it comes up pretty nicely over here. So that's interesting, and as a publisher, Google said you can't do anything to control if you will show up in here or not, but you could definitely help the algorithm figure out, specifically they said, where is it? You could help their algorithm select the proper images and titles for your carousel result. So if you do have a carousel result, you could actually help them figure out what the headline and the image would be by using what's called article-rich snippet. So if you're not using article-rich snippet and you are a publisher, definitely get that stuff in there. I linked to it over here, and it can definitely help you when you have these results show up. All right, so we talked about this in the past. Can you redirect a penalty you have on your website to a new website that you built or to a competitor's website? And John Mueller basically said you could redirect it to your own site, but you can't redirect it to a competitor's website as negative SEO. And this distinction I saw when he was talking about this was specifically the difference between an existing website versus a site move. So if you start a new domain name and you move your whole entire website to this new domain name and your previous one is being redirected, you could pass a penalty, I think, in what John's saying. But if you redirect your website to a site that's already out there, that's been around there for a long time, and that doesn't really change, they're not really taking over your content, they're not really taking over your design and so forth, then it's probably not going to go ahead and negatively impact that site. Because there are people that try to do that, and Google's savvy on that. So you definitely want to watch that video where John talks about that as well. Google News had a hangout this week, a live hangout, where Stacy Chan went ahead and answered a bunch of questions. And one thing was, a thing that SEOs often do is they'll switch up their title tag with their H1 tag. So this is the header tag, and the title tag is these things up here. And sometimes SEOs, and I do this all the time, I'll change the title tag so it's slightly different than the header tag so that it could pick up on different keywords. So if I talk about, I don't know, the Google News title tag and H1 tag should be consistent for ranking, I might say keep your Google News and title tag, keep your Google title tags and H1 tags the same, or something like that, so that people searching for different variations of that keyword would actually be able to find it, even though the article is exactly the same. But Stacy Chen said specifically for Google News, not for Google SEO or web, she said, but she doesn't know about that. She knows about Google News, that you want to be as consistent as possible so that Google knows what your article is about. And I've heard this several times, specifically around Google News, and this is the first time I actually saw Google actually talk about it on record. Sitemaps, again, or this is Google News related, Stacy Chan said, if you want to know the index count of your stories being indexed by Google News, the best way is not to use your sitemaps file. Typically with SEO, you want to say, all right, upload a sitemap, it will show you the pages submitted versus the pages indexed by Google. And that's a great way to figure out how many pages Google indexed of your sitemap. But when it comes to Google News, it's completely different. Google News sitemaps don't really show an accurate count of the pages indexed because that sitemap file is changing fast, and it's much faster. Google's Stacey Chan said instead, just do a simple site command in Google News specifically to see if that article was indexed. Next up, Google said that you should only use the submit to index under the fetch as Googlebot feature in critical cases. Specifically, if you need a specific article to be crawled very quickly, your site was delisted by accident, and you want to get certain pages back in the index faster, but you should only use it in critical cases. You shouldn't be submitting every single page that you have to Google using this feature because Google will actually limit you. The limit, I believe, is 500 per week in terms of, actually per month, for what you can actually submit to index in this feature. This is upsetting. So Google, yesterday I saw tons of webmasters complaining, like probably a few dozen webmasters complaining that Google added this site may be hacked warning to the search results for their searches for this listing. And I looked at it and I was like, this is unusual. Usually you see like 1 or 2 a week or 3 or 4 a week, but not dozens and dozens in a single day. So I sent it to Google, they took a look at it, and Google said, well, we actually released a new hacked page classifier, and with that classifier, we actually misclassified a bunch of websites. They said a small number of websites. This is what they told me last night, and this morning, John Mueller said that if you think you were misclassified yesterday by that classifier, you could submit a form, and here's a link to the form, and tell them about it. This is the only way Google could actually rush and get your site to remove that link. So definitely, if you were affected, check your search results, make sure your site was not affected by this, and if you were, submit that form as soon as possible. Good news, data is returning to both Google Webmaster Tools and Google Analytics. The Google Analytics stuff returned back on February 7th or 17th or so. Over the weekend, actually returned back the analytics data. And Google Webmaster Tools is finally updating. They started updating and bringing it up to date. I think now it's only 3 days behind, which is 1 day longer than it usually is. So I assume by the weekend, everything will be caught up with Google Webmaster Tools. So that's a good thing. And finally, if you are a big AdWords advertiser and you're struggling keeping on top of all the features they released, Google has released a new page that lets you keep track of all the features by date range. So you can see here's the page, it tells you the date and what they released with a link to more information about that feature. So that's a nice thing to have. And Google last year alone released over 200 new features to AdWords, so keeping track of these things could be time consuming for most people. In any event, thanks so much for listening to this first Search Buzz video recap. My name again is Barry Schwartz, and this is the search news we covered over at the Search and Roundtable at seroundtable.com. Today again is Friday, February 20th. Everyone have a great weekend, and I'll see you guys next. Bye.